whatever
all
you
in
want to
one
get, all in one place.
stop shopping.
So I think that also when stuff like this happens, that's why you have to have a community and a neighborhood and a local government that really supports your local business so that you can stay in business. I think that at that point, it's not the tax money that should be going into the business. It should be the people going directly into those businesses. You know what I'm saying? Saying, hey, I'm gonna buy here because I know this feeds your family. Like, you know what I'm saying? So I think that a lot of that doesn't get considered when stuff like this
And there was
happens.
some good stipulations, like with that loan program, where companies who took that money, they couldn't lay people off. So if you laid people off, you didn't qualify for that money. So it helped business be able to stay afloat during this time and make the adjustments that they needed to. But I kind of want to go to something else if nobody has anything else to add.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
So on Saturday there was a gathering at the State House to protest the vaccinations, the mandatory flu vaccine, which I hate using that term because it is not a vaccine. It's a cocktail of guesses, is what I call it. But I found this very interesting, and if there's a listener, I don't know, Boomer, if you're on, but maybe you can. And I just find it funny, you guys can chime in, that he would activate the National Guard for something like this, a protest against, which was peaceful, and you knew it was going to be peaceful because the types of people that are against this mandatory flu vaccine were civil people. He calls up the National Guard anticipating there to be trouble. However, when it was the Black Lives Matter and Antifa protesting, I don't recall him calling up the National Guard to assist with that. I could be wrong. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but what do you guys think about that?
Come on, man. He didn't call the National Guard for BLM protesters. Well, he's a Republican.
He's a wolf. He's a wolf in sheep's clothing.
So you think that he should have?
Hey, Evo, did you have to change the live again?
Yeah, went in and out.
Oh,
YouTube
gotcha.
is up now. We're on YouTube. If you got YouTube, join us on YouTube as well. Like and share and subscribe.
Yeah, why would you call up the National Guard with the anticipation that something might happen and not do it for something that you know especially has been violent?
Yeah.
The violence was going on before it even hit Massachusetts. So wouldn't you think that they would be treated at least equally?
Because we have a lot of front runners in our culture now, meaning no, he's not going to get any backlash for calling the National Guard in a situation or a situation like this, because he's not really going against the grain. And the people that he would offend are probably not going to react the way that people we would offend would react. So there is no backlash on his end. So he's front running. Obviously, that we've had BLM protesters several months back, and they did cause some damage to property. And he did not release the National Guards because if he was to do that, him being white, a Republican, and they know where he lives because they did protest his house during the COVID thing, he would be in a lot more trouble. And of course, he's also hearing from the higher up in the the political party organizations. He's getting demands from people with more power and money. So obviously, we know that he's not going, because he's a liberal. He's not. At least that's what I'm thinking, looking from the outside, and me being just a layman, regular civilian. I'm assuming he's, it's like picking a fight with somebody that's skinny and small, you can beat up, opposed to the big bully that everyone's afraid of.
Right.
So it's easier to do that with this situation than the others, obviously.
Obviously, yeah.
But nothing happened. Usually, it's not Republicans or conservatives or Christians or regular, hardworking, common sense Americans that are breaking stuff and protesting and being violent. It's not them. So of course it's easy to, you can walk in and express your support. If you went to a Trump rally, express your support for Hillary, wear a Hillary t-shirt or a Biden and Harris t-shirt, hat, and act a fool, and nothing would happen to you, most likely. I'm pretty sure, 99% sure, nothing's going to happen to you. As a matter of fact, there's a lot of people on YouTube that are testified, people that were not Trump supporters, they went to Trump rallies, and they were totally surprised as to how nice the people were,
Right.
how they didn't treat them any differently. They were nice to them, blah, blah, blah. So that's why Baker, he doesn't feel threatened to do that in this situation because we're not the aggressors.
Yeah,
We
and
do
I
stuff-
believe I don't think he can run again. I believe there's a term limit for governor. I believe they can only serve 2 terms. So I don't think he can run again. So there's no. I guess there'd be no backlash there, anyways, right? He doesn't care at this moment. And if he is getting calls
Right.
Yeah.
for higher positions, they're most likely Democrat type positions, anyways, because he's anti-Trump. So I doubt Trump would be calling him for anything.
Yeah.
So
Well,
But-
you know, it's like amazing to me because that's those same protests. We were just talking about Wisconsin and that kid with the AR-15 who ends up shooting a man, and now they're calling him a murderer,
right,
which doesn't make sense because he was pretty much defending himself.
yeah.
And
It-
yet
it's-
you,
yeah.
you don't want to call the National Guard for Black Lives Matter protests when things like that get out of hand like that, in a protest like that. It's a Black Lives Matter protest. Chaos, protesting, rioting. Yeah, like you said, the reasoning behind it is because you know that people who are going to be protesting this vaccine here in Massachusetts are not going to be wilding out like that, going crazy.
Right. So that's my point. Like, you know that it's
I think that
gonna be
the
peaceful.
National Guard is more suitable for the chaos. That's what they're there for.
Right. And we've seen that. Any time that the National Guard has come in for these riots, all of a sudden it's gotten quiet. You know, so they're very effective because people realize that, hey, there's some real consequences now if I mess with the National Guard, or at least they seem like they're going to take us more seriously.
Yeah.
You know, so I can't get away with it. The problem with that kid, it's twofold. My opinion, he gets off for self-defense, which I think is accurate. He should. What he's going to get nailed to the wall with is the fact that he brought a gun over state lines.
Yeah.
That's the problem. That's where he's going to get nailed. Who knows? He's got a great lawyer, from what I hear. There's a chance he'll probably get off everything. It's possible. The self-defense, honestly, I think he was justified. You watch the video, he was trying to get away. He was trying to be peaceful. They attacked him. They followed him. They antagonized him. At one point, one of the victims, I don't really want to call him a victim. He got justice. Justice was served to him, but he points a Glock at him. Like, what are you going to do in that situation? Somebody points a gun at your face. What are you going to do? You have a split second to defend yourself. What are you going to do, Deshaun?
I'm going to shoot him.
But that's not what the media wants him to do. The media wants him to get beat over the head with a skateboard, get a Glock shoved in his face, and then just wait to die.
Yeah, but that's what they won't show. They won't show that part of the clip. You know what I mean? And that to me is unfortunate.
And they paint him as somebody who purposely went there to shoot. First of all, he went there to clean up. They got pictures of him and video of him cleaning up, helping out. Okay, should he have probably stayed in his own state? Probably.
I think
it would have been
it
safer,
would have been
better.
safer for him to stay.
But you know what? We kind of got these things a little backwards because we think of militia and Minutemen as the National Guard, and that's not what the Minutemen were. Okay, the Minutemen are not, back in the Revolutionary days, they weren't National Guardsmen. They were everyday citizens, farmers that got together and say, hey, we're going to defend our communities. So we have a right to have local militias, because that's how we created this nation, was through local militias. It wasn't our regular army that really won the war for us.
No.
But anyways, I'm getting off track. The point I'm making with this kid is he didn't go there to purposely shoot protesters, and that's what the media wants you to believe. That he's a fanatic that went there, wanted to kill protesters.
He's some crazy kid.
But when you watch the video, you see it was self-defense. He renders aid to one of them, tries to help them, and he immediately turns himself in to the police.
Yes.
That is not somebody who's purposely on a
After it was
mission.
all said and done, you could see him in the video putting his hands up, his gun was down, and
Yep.
he was just saying, "Here, I'm here."
Stephen Grace on Facebook wrote, "Guy with the Glock was a felon, which means he's not supposed to have a gun,
Correct.
just like Kyle wasn't supposed to have one."
Yep, that is correct. And all three of the people that were involved in that shooting were convicted
Yeah.
felons. One of them was a pedophile. So, right now he's talking to Jesus, and Jesus is reading him his rap sheet, I guess, of being a pedophile. I'd hate to be him right now. But, yeah.
Yeah. It's unfortunate what's going on, and I just think that ultimately, we have a system that's screwed in.
The kid was good with the gun, though.
He was.
I mean,
Right
he
between
was
the
training.
eyes.
You hear from interviews. He was trying to be. He wanted to be a police officer. He was training.
He'll probably get offered a position for something different. Maybe
Hey,
a
Kyle,
conservative.
if I ever make it big, Kyle, and I get plenty of money, you can be my bodyguard.
Yeah.
We'll
Yeah.
hire you to be the politically incorrect podcast bodyguard.
I don't think I don't know, maybe after Trump's next term maybe things will shift, but I don't think you're going to see police departments want to take that risk,
Yeah.
because they'll
He's
then
a liability, right?
they'll become not a liability in the sense of like he's reckless.
As
It's
far as
it's the
like,
risk that now that whatever the police department takes him, they're going to be a target for
Yes.
Black Lives
Yeah.
Matter and
Yeah.
Antifa and other antagonist groups.
You never know if he does get a chance, it's going to be a long time.
I
We have
mean,
to have
he could probably join the military.
Yeah, we'd have to have some cultural changes and things happen
Yeah.
for him to
Yeah,
get a shot
we'll
like
see.
that. But it's really unfortunate because he does look like a good kid, really good with the gun. It just, for me, I don't know what he was feeling in the moment, feeling led to go there and do something productive. It didn't seem, looking back now, like the wisest thing to do to go there with a gun.
No, but think
but-
about it. Had he not had the gun,
Right.
he probably would be dead right now.
He would be dead.
We just
be
saw
dead.
an execution of a Trump supporter.
Yeah, in
Right.
Portland.
I think
In Portland,
what
it just
we're
happened.
trying to say too is just I think Kyle just should have stayed home. I think it was admirable what he did, but I just think he just should have
No,
stayed
I mean we
home.
can't say that because
Why not?
what does Pastor always say? A faith-based risk. We don't know. That kid has a heart to serve, so
Right.
somebody's got to go out there.
But there could have been other ways. I don't think he had to
Right,
go
but going
there.
back to the militia
No, I
thing,
don't.
if you created a
It is what it is. It's
if you
happened.
created back in the Revolutionary War days, right? If you created a militia in Massachusetts, you didn't just stay in Massachusetts. You traveled
Yeah.
wherever you were needed, So it's kind of the same idea, just not as organized because it's just him. But I think we've gotten so.
You wouldn't say that if he went there and let's say you had a child that was at the rally somehow, and he did something that saved the child's life,
Right.
even though he got into trouble
a
afterwards.
good
But he
point.
did something that. So you don't know. We just have to wait for the whole thing, his whole life, to play out to see where this goes because.
Right.
It doesn't
I
look
agree
like
with
it was
that.
a wise idea, right? It doesn't, but when someone's, I don't know. you
And
know?
maybe if we had a lot more Kyles,
Yeah.
maybe if we were all a little braver,
Yeah.
we wouldn't be dealing with the messes that we're dealing
Right.
with right now. Because let's be honest, the people that are doing all this violence, they're all purple-haired people, right?
Yeah.
No offense if you're a conservative with purple hair, but I'm just trying to point across is that when real Americans start to stand up,
Yeah.
you see how
Take
quickly
risks.
Antifa
Yeah.
bows.
Because look at how they're doing all this nonsense that's wrong, but their message is moving. Their work is being accomplished to some degree.
Yeah.
So we need more Kyles and things like that.
Yeah, we need more people who are willing to take that sacrifice in
You
some
know.
way, shape, or form.
But speaking of pedophiles, did you guys see the story about the missing kids that were found?
39 kids in Georgia found in the trailer, yeah.
Yeah.
I saw the headline. Yes.
Saw the headline, that's about it. That's as
Yeah.
far as I know.
I think that's amazing how, again, it's another thing.
It's it's true. They don't care.
Come on, man.
The media does not care about our children. It's horrible. They don't care about our children, man. They
And
don't care.
And I've been seeing, I know this is a pretty big one with the 39 kids, but I had been seeing articles around the country where they're starting to find missing kids. So there's a big push by this administration, and it is this administration, because the Trump administration in his first year, I believe, if I remember the numbers, he made more arrests hard against drug trafficking and also sex trafficking. And that's why you're starting to see all these victories with kids in Georgia. But it's just like, it's amazing to think that 39 kids can just disappear just like that. And I thank God that they're found.
There's
No
no
major
breaking
headline.
news. There's no breaking news. There's no major headline.
You would think like you would be seeing these kids being reunited with their families, like these big stories, but you're not even seeing that stuff. You're just seeing, oh, they were found. I would love to see them reunited with their parents.
Yeah.
And the reactions to that, and that's what we need to be seeing now.
It's crazy.
But you know, I think it all stems to the elitists and the big pedophile rings that the media is constantly covering up. You know, Hollywood and not only Hollywood, but
Hollywood.
elite politicians. Again, I think if Trump wins, you're going to see, I think people are going to be shocked
Yep.
to see who is on that list and who is part of this whole pedophilia ring. Again, if Sleepy Joe and Dementia Joe gets in, whichever one he chooses to be that day, all of that's going to get swept under the
Yeah.
rug. All
Yeah,
of it.
You're right. Yeah, you're right. Well, I don't know. We have anything else we want to cover today? I think we covered a good whole lot today. Anything else we want to talk about? Anything else we want to say to somebody?
Any more
What's watching?
comments, questions, anything
Comment.
on there?
Comment a question. Comment something. Something you want us to talk about. Something that maybe we didn't cover and that you were itching to hear us talk about. How long have we been going for? Maybe an hour and a half?
You know what? I want to say this. I was talking to Stephen Joyce about this yesterday. Remember we were talking about last week about Montreal Harris, or Harold, whatever his last name is, with Luka Doncic, how he called Luka Doncic a BA white boy. I saw a podcast with a couple of NBA players, Kevin Love and JJ Redick, and they're both white. And they were asked, how many times have you been called a BA white boy in the court? And they said plenty of times, but they're like, it doesn't bother me. I just brush it off. But they understood, and they actually thought it was real offensive if the tables were turned and Luka Doncic would call Montrezl Harrell a BA black boy.
Yeah.
Now, notice that. Notice the soft bigotry there. Just notice it. You guys notice that?
Yeah.
You can't have thick skin, but I can. You can't brush something off, but I can. You notice that? No, wait a minute, Montreal. I can handle being called a BA white boy, but you can't handle being called a BA black boy. So it's more offensive to happen to you than it is to me.
Yeah.
That's such soft bigotry. And for me, if I was in those shoes, I'd be like, dude, what are you trying to say? I don't have thick skin. So you're gonna raise your life, your children at a different standard as how you expect me to raise my life and my children. So I should teach my kids to always be victimized when it comes to the color of the skin, but you would teach your kids to not just brush it off if people to make comments like that about you.
Yeah.
That's such soft bigotry to me that I can't even believe that black people actually sit there and take it. They soak it up. And they go, yeah, man, you're right. They should never call us that, blah, 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 because of the history we have. You're actually accepting the soft bigotry that comes from white liberals.
Yeah, and you know what I mean?
That's pathetic.
That is
man.
pathetic. But
That is so beta.
But we know the double standard. You know, even on a comment that I got
Man,
on
if
my
I was on that
post.
podcast, I'd be like, Kevin, wait a minute. If you called me the N-word, I'll be just fine, brother. You don't have to feel sorry for me. So you can hold yourself to a high... You don't notice how offensive that is? That's pretty much me saying, hey, wait a minute, Deshaun. Don't lift that, 300-pound weight. That's too big for you. Let me lift it. You can't handle it, bruh. And shouldn't you be like, wait a minute, I can lift just as much as you. What are you talking about? No, you can't. No, you can't. I got it, man. I got it. Don't worry about it. Just go sit over there. That's the soft bigotry that the left always has with black folks. And this is bringing it from a different angle. They pull this soft bigotry with them all the time. And I don't know if black people just don't want to see it, but they just sit there and soak it up. So white people they would never ever preach the stuff that they preach to black people, to their own kids in their own lives. They would always let the blacks live that way, to this lowered standard. You need all the help. You need all the affirmative action. You need all the hugging that we can give. You need all this stuff because you're too weak and pathetic to deal with life the way we expect ourselves and our children to. And they do it in such a subtle way that I don't think the blacks pick up on it. But I did when I heard Kevin Love and JJ Redick talk about that, how they've been called that throughout their whole lives on the basketball court. B.A. White Boy and other names, and they're just fine. And they're successful. It hasn't stopped them. They brush it off. But when it comes to a black person being called that, they're not fine. Don't do it to them. They can't handle it. Come on. That's so...
That's so weak, yeah. That's
God.
pathetic, yeah. Well, I mean, the comment I got on a quote like that, like, I remember I posted a status that says, if your quote-unquote blackness supersedes friendship, then that makes you a racist. You care more about being black than your actual relationships with other people. That's horrible and really divisive. And there was a comment, that we always talk about this double standard, right?
Yeah.
And Mrs. Kathleen McLean, she goes on to say, black people cannot be racist. Racism is only for people who have power, and black people do not. Wow.
That's when they talk about systemic. I've noticed. I'm starting to get hip to the liberal game. See, systemic racism is different than a racist act or racism in your heart. So I think what they're trying to say is there is no way that white people can be held down systemically opposed to black people. But that's not even true these days because all the systemic racism stuff is now gone. Anything that a white person could do now, a black person can do.
Yep.
So they're conflating that. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to get away with being racist in their hearts because they think there's still systemic racism.
Yeah.
But even then, they're putting themselves in a lower standard than white people. So white people can be cleansed in their heart. They can try to be better, not be racist, but black people can't. That's still soft bigotry. Meaning, listen, white people, you can always check yourself and try to love everybody, but we have an excuse not to love everybody. So just that's again living at a lower standard than white people, and that's to me is pathetic. And how you can't pick that up is amazing to me. That you still would hold yourself to a lower standard than see. This is where I believe in white privilege, not in the sense that the white privilege is just doing regular stuff that's right that white people do and that black people don't do. That's the white privilege, and anybody could have it. But I call it white privilege in this sense because white people just do what's regular. Like they raise their kids, they have a nuclear family, they go to work, they brush things off, they hold themselves to a high standard. That for me, if you want to say there's white privilege, that's it. Because black people refuse to do those things, and they stay in this victimized, low standard of living mentality. So, again, hey, call it white privilege, but they're just doing what's right. Yeah. Anybody can do it. They're just doing what's right. They just doing and just follow the formula, and you'll be able to have success.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, systemic racism, it's one of those things that when you ask for an example, they can never give it to you. Because if anything, minorities have a higher advantage than white people because we don't get hired based on the color of our skin.
Right.
The companies don't get kickbacks for hiring a white person.
Right.
I don't get any additional college aid or support based on the color of my skin, but blacks and minorities do. So wouldn't that technically be systemic racism, favoring another color or sex over
it's
over another?
Systemic racism, yeah. And notice that white people don't complain about it again because they live at a higher standard.
Yeah.
Than most blacks do. In the home, the fatherless homes, all that stuff. They live in a high state, and they still don't complain about it, even when it's overtly out there. Look at the Asians; they were actually discriminated against in these colleges. They were held to a higher standard to have a higher score in all their tests, and they never complained, and they still succeeded.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Not only that, again, looking back on U.S. history, Chinese, a lot of that was slave labor building our railroads, and it was the Chinese that we were using. Again, you don't see them complaining. They come here, they work hard, they create their own businesses, and they raise their families. They have strict standards for their kids. You know, a lot of them, anything less than an A is a failure. You know, they hold themselves to high standards.
They do.
Yeah.
You know, but you don't see too many Asians. You know, I don't know. Maybe different races, different variations of them. Their circumstances may be different, but especially when you look at like a Japanese or Korean or Chinese Asians, their families are intact. They're hard workers. You know, and it all stems to that, going back to that nuclear family. If you can hold on to that nuclear family, keep fathers in the home, raise your children upright, it eliminates a lot of that poverty.
Yeah.
You
It
know,
does.
but
That's
what happens when you
true.
rely too much on government. You know, it destroys the family.
It will. It will.
But I just wanted to talk about that. I wanted to bring that up because I thought that was just profound to me. It was just subtle bigotry.
Well, I think we wrap it up, huh? Thank you for joining us. I don't know if we want to talk about anything else, but I'm ready to wrap it up. I don't know about you guys.
I think we're good. I think we had a good show today. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for those who continue to comment and ask questions.
Thank you, Steven.
Yeah, please keep doing that because I think it makes the conversation interesting.
I'm looking at the live stream. Are we live? Are we live right now?
We are live.
All right.
My phone died, so I had to put our picture up.
Gotcha. So, yeah, look at us. We're having a good time here. Time flies when you're having fun. So, thank you for joining us. Thank you for commenting. Thank you for engaging and interacting with us. We're so happy to bring you guys content on a weekly basis. And we'll see you next time on the Politically Incorrect Podcast. Have a great day.